If you'll bear with us a few more minutes, I have a few words about Joe. My name is Louis Elrod. I'm the great-nephew of Uncle Joe. I have a eulogy here written by my Uncle Charlie, who was Joe's nephew. Uncle Charlie and I have the distinction of both being godsons of Uncle Joe. When I think of Joe Bradley, I think of a happy man. He had difficult, trying, and sad moments, as we all do, but overall he was contented and at peace. I believe it was because he worked at it. He was born on July 17th, 1920, the youngest child of Sadie and James Bradley. His older brothers were John, Jim, Leo, Vince, and Ed. The stories about this group are legendary in the Bradley family. In spite of the fact that Joe's father died quite soon after he was born, it's clear that he grew up surrounded by a strong, supportive family. Sadie made ends meet with 2 pension checks, so although they were by no means well off, Joe never felt the pinch of poverty. And having 5 older brothers certainly gave him a strong sense of security. There's a photo of Joe that he keeps in his Florida room. He looks about 16 years old, and his smile and beaming face shout out confidence and a sheer joy in being alive. World War II found both Ed and Joe in Europe. I remember Joe telling me that he and Ed were both in France for a time, though Ed was in the Paris area and Joe nearer to the English Channel coast. Well, Joe got a few days leave, so he decided to try and find Ed. He hitched a few rides on army vehicles, made some inquiries, and within 2 days walked into Ed's barracks and tapped him on the shoulder. Ed couldn't believe it. They had a few beers, and Ed gave Joe his bed for the night. The next day, Joe was on his way back, riding with an officer who had learned Joe knew some French. He translated his way back to home base. After the war, Joe took advantage of the GI Bill and attended what is now Montclair University. He later said, and this is proved by statistics, that this was the best investment the United States ever made. This bill educated some 8 million Americans, mostly men, and gave them a future and the country a superior workforce. Joe was always grateful for that. It was about this time, after he graduated, that he met and married the love of his life, Mery. They would spend more than 50 years together. Joe became an elementary school teacher, and whenever the rigors of teaching, and they were many, got too demanding, Mery would see the signs and say, "Let's go on a trip." And so they did. Aside from several years as a sales representative for the book company DC Heath, Joe spent his entire career as a teacher, an extremely popular and successful teacher. He was organized and smart. Before he went home every day, he disciplined himself to complete all his work. He rarely, if ever, brought home papers, tests, or class preparation material. This made him a much more relaxed instructor. And as we all know, he was a natural storyteller. It was a gift, and it came to him naturally to hold his classes enthralled as he wended his way through one story after another. This ability carried over into his instruction. His students looked forward to his classes. They found them interesting, and they learned. Joe and Mery retired when Joe was about 62. He took my father, Vince, with him down to Florida to scout out condominiums, especially those with golf courses. They found one directly on a golf course and moved down late in 1984. So Joe played golf, and Mery joined the local chapter of the Daughters of the American Revolution. Joe used to laugh as he remembered coming home from golfing one day, only to be delayed by a parade, and, much to his surprise, there was Mery strutting out front leading a contingent of the DAR. They continued to travel all over the world, visiting every continent. Well, I'm not sure about Africa, but I suspect they were there too. And then there were difficult times. Joe had open-heart surgery. Mery became ill, and after a long treatment, passed away. She was buried in her hometown of Bath, New York, which Joe used to visit often. He missed her terribly. They had been together more than 50 years. But he said, "You don't get over it." You just live in a different way. So his life developed new patterns. Joe asked me down to give him a hand when he had to get his pacemaker replaced. When the nurse interviewed him before the procedure, she asked, "Do you have a hobby?" Joe replied, "I play golf." "What do you do to relieve stress?" He answered, "I play golf." This remained a major focus of his activity and social life as he organized groups for playing and set up schedules on his trusty computer. A while ago, Joe visited with me for almost a week. One morning, as I was getting some breakfast foods out and wondering how to spend our day, I heard Joe in the bathroom. He was humming and singing, nothing in particular, just kind of dum-de-dum-dum sounds of contentment. He's happy, I thought. He was puttering away at his shaving ritual, humming and completely at peace with the world around him. It's a gift to be so much in tune with the universe. But as I said, it's also something he worked at. At every stage of his life, he was happy, no matter if he was in school, at war, teaching children, or selling books. Joe was curious and interested in everything and every person and at peace and content in his living out the ordinary moments of life. I know Joe has found a happiness now that is without end, and he remains to us as someone who made us feel happier to have him around us. He brought us his own joy of life and helped us to experience it too. We liked having him around all his long life because he helped us to see that our lives were as happy as he saw his own to be.
Thanks.